We are here in Bethnal Green in London City in the UK at the OBV offices for a quick and dirty conversation with two of the icons in regards to about politics in the UK, and specifically in relation to Operation Black Vote and how it was established. I'm going to ask the two of them three very clear questions, very clean questions in relation to OBV, which I think is really pertinent because this is the 21st anniversary of the organisation. It's an iconic organisation in the UK. There aren't many organisations, in fact I can't think of any, that have had more successes in regards to their area, the remit of work, and supporting other organisations and communities across the board. My name's Ahmun, so I'm going to go straight to Lee Jasper, who I'll let introduce himself and ask him the first question. So Lee, can you just tell me why OBV was established and how it was established?
It was established in 1996 and really in response to the powerlessness that we felt, particularly after a very powerful demonstration against a Black Death in custody, in which the response of the media and the police was absolutely overwhelming. And we sat down in the smouldering ruins of that demonstration and said, we need to have greater political leverage. And therefore a young man who was with us at the time, Derek, said they've just launched Operation Eagle Eye, so why don't we launch Operation Eagle Eye? Was a anti-street robbery campaign targeted at black people, led by Sir Paul Condon, the commissioner of the time.
You were involved at the same time?
Yes, very much.
And OBV was born from 96, and really what we set out to do is follow the model established by Dr. King, which is make sure that you've got political leverage as well as economic and moral leverage to seek to pursue race equality.
And just a little bit about the legendary Lee Jasper and what influence you brought to bear in the establishment of the organisation.
Well, I found Simon volunteering for Charter 88 and thought that was a consummate waste of everybody's time, resources and energy, and therefore convinced him by fair means and foul to come and work for me and volunteer for us at the 1990 Trust. And really he came over, and the philosophy of the 1990 Trust, which I was the director, is to facilitate and let 1,000 flowers bloom, and OBV was one of our early incubated babies that went on to be bigger than the parent.
And sustainable, exactly. So, Simon, you're the director of OBV,
right,
and a very successful director, if I may say so. And I suppose the second question falls to you, really. What is OBV doing, and what has it achieved in the last 21st years? Big question, short period of time to answer it.
Two principal challenges we've sought to do. First and foremost is to politically empower black and minority ethnic communities. That if you have power, we've always said that you're in a position where you're not asking for justice, you can demand it. And we've seen a transformative change when you're in a position to demand the substantive change that we need to see in education, in health, employment, in the criminal justice system. So that's been our first target, our people. The second, of course, is the state, the institutions, the institutional inequalities that have prevailed throughout all of our institutions. We've sought to challenge them, to hold their feet to the fire, and to demand change. And I think we've made a big difference in all of those areas.
And could you give a couple of examples in terms of initiatives and schemes?
No, exactly. When we begun, and Lee will know this acutely, when we begun in 1996, there were 4 black and minority ethnic MPs. Today, 20 years later, there are over 50. So it's a tenfold
massive
increase. More people registered to vote, more people vote. And I think critically, one of the biggest successes, of course, is now tackling race inequality is at the centre of government. No government dare not ignore this issue, because there's a political penalty to pay to ignore tackling race inequality. So the community is empowered, the state have been put on notice, and when the two converge, we can make a great deal of a difference.
Powerful. Is there any point you want to add to that, Lee? Briefly.
No, I just think the increase in voter registration can't be underestimated. It's only when we saw the registration going up that there was additional traction by institutions in power. Okay. I think that the challenge for us going forward is that austerity has amplified inequality, and therefore some of the gains we've made have been evaporated under the lens of austerity, and we'll have to take that into account going forward. But seeking political leverage in addition to economic, in relation to cultural and faith, are very strong pillars of any civil rights movement.
I mean, I would guess we've had three pillars that have guided this organisation. Political, for our communities at least, political education, understanding power, where it lies, how we can take it with democratic deeds, political participation, registering to vote and voting. And the third element, political representation. We've argued for the last 20 years and more, anywhere there are decisions that affect our communities, we should be around the table. Education, participation, representation. That's the three, pillars that drive Operation Black Vote.
Disabled people, disabled community have a saying, nothing about us without us, and that's from the OBV philosophy.
Absolutely. So, just moving very quickly then to the third question, and I think the most significant question for others that are looking at what OBV's achieved in this country and how they might replicate it. So, where to next for OB as an organisation? What does it have to offer to export to other communities that are experiencing similar challenges?
Well, I think from very early on, we've always seen ourselves as international. Yeah. We've seen ourselves as a diaspora of activism for people of colour. So we've done great work with our African American brothers, and actually we've, in many ways, again, Lee will know this, we've really been a role model and support for black people, 20 million black people on mainland Europe, in France, in Belgium, in Holland, in Norway, in Sweden. We travel there on a regular basis and give these tools, the tools of activism, the tools of change to our brothers and sisters in these far places. And, a particular, reward on seeing black politicians that we've helped nurture in Sweden, in Norway, in Belgium. This is a global project, and we've sought over these 2 decades to sow a golden thread of black communities that can be united, that can support each other and collectively make that difference.
Well, look, let's just picking up on these closing points, Lee. Now, our brothers in Australia, and particularly in Western Australia, are listening to this conversation and watching this conversation now, and we're very familiar with the dysfunctionality and the abuse that they've experienced. It's a dirty secret. Can you just add to what Simon has stated in relation to exporting OBV and its competencies, but specifically in relation to Western Australia?
Well, I think it's an extension of the dream of Dr. King, isn't it, to use the experience of diasporas who've managed to achieve some level of political change to export that and ensure that learning is spread across the globe. And the African diaspora across the globe is many and varied. People don't realise, but the biggest African diaspora is not English-speaking diaspora; it's a Spanish-speaking diaspora in Latin America. It's absolutely the largest African community outside of Africa. And I think that in relation to the Australia experience, I've watched it for many years. TJ Hickey, Miss Do, I've seen people left in the back of vans in 120-degree Australian heat in the outback, literally died with the heat in the back of that van, left out for 15 hours by police officers, some treatment you wouldn't even treat animals, dogs to. And so I think that Australia has a peculiar form of apartheid that is second only to that outside of Israel. I think the level of discrimination there is, whilst not all codified into law, as like the apartheid regime was, we know that you don't have to have apartheid laws to have apartheid outcomes. And the Aboriginal people are the most singularly oppressed group of diasporic Africans, I think, of any group in the world. So the model of OBV, I think, will bring them, great excitement. It'll provide great opportunity, and linked in with seasoned activists like ourselves here can only assist and aid their attempt to raise the visibility of Aboriginal Africans in Australia.
Yeah. Well, I want to add my last point to this, and specifically to Noddy and other black brothers and sisters who are watching this, that we're 100% committed to sharing all of the experiences, the knowledge that we have, which added together is more than 100 years worth. We are in the belly of the beast. And we are here and we are strong, and we want to share what we've learned. And more importantly, I think it's something that's not said enough. Learn from your experiences so that we can mutually become stronger in what is essentially, as Simon has already stated, a global struggle. So thank you. Enjoy your conference, and we look forward to seeing you in the flesh very soon.